That was awesome. You know how to blow crap up, don't you?
It's a lot of fun.
Well, tell
Kind
us.
of makes it worth it sometimes.
Welcome to SC. You're probably here 3 times a week, and you're probably judging business plans another 2 weeks. But thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. I actually
go ahead.
took all my entrepreneur classes in this room.
No kidding.
So it's kind of fun to be back.
Very cool. Full circle. Tell us some of the things you're working on at the moment.
We are currently working on the next Martin Scorsese film, which is called Hugo Cabret, based on a book, and Green Lantern and Pirates of the Caribbean, kind of the big films.
Very exciting. So
We're lucky we get to work on. We do small bits of a lot of big movies.
So anything that's a lot of big budget films, a lot of action films, but also a lot of award-winning films as well. A few.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of get on to a team with a director, and they take you from project to project. So with Martin Scorsese, our first project was The Aviator, and from then we've been on every film or project that he's done, to, from major feature films like The Departed to even like Shine a Light.
Well, that's sort of the lesson for all businesses. Is it's so much built on relationships, and the best advertisement is someone using you and you doing a good job.
Absolutely. It's our industry is so small, and especially when we started, it's kind of evolved since then, but it is all word of mouth and repeat client and referral, and your reputation is very important. So we often invest and put extra time and effort into our projects so that that we do kind of maintain that reputation, and people trust us and know that they can just hand off a project and they don't have to worry about it because they're so busy.
Good, good. Well, before we sort of dive into New Deal, what you do, all the services, customers, can we do a little bit of background on you and where you started? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Boston, and then my family moved to the Bahamas, so I lived a little bit in the Bahamas, and then I moved to Miami, and I grew up in Miami, and then came here for school.
What brought you out to LA for school?
Well, when I was a kid, I always knew I wanted to do business in a creative field. I started out, I was an artist as a really young child, and just kind of taught myself how to draw and paint and sew and calligraphy, everything, anything I could get my hands on. And then in my teens, my mom bought me Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. And that kind of got me into business, and I knew I wanted to do business in a creative field. So at 15, I knew I was going to business school. And then I had a friend here, and I came to visit, and I just knew I needed to come to Los Angeles, if only to get away from the heat.
So you came out here as a freshman?
No, I started, I paid for school, and so I went to a state school in Florida and then transferred.
So you came here second year, third year?
Third.
Third year, and what'd you major in?
Entrepreneurship.
I always have to have that plug, of course. And part of the reason why we go back and tell these stories is because, they're 20, 22 years old, graduating, thinking about what's next. You knew the field that you wanted to be in. Did you know what you wanted to do as you graduated?
I did, because my senior project was writing a business plan, and at that time it was really, really busy in the industry, and one of the major vendors closed, and one of my business partners to be was part of that company, and so it was just a great moment, and we kind of grabbed that opportunity. We had customer in hand. We were working on Broken Arrow, the Fox film. So Fox has kind of been there for us every time we grew. Fox was part of that, and based on the profits from Broken Arrow, we launched our company with 2 projects and built the company from there with no loans, just reinvesting profits and using cash flow.
So let me get this straight here. You're graduating from undergrad, you take the entrepreneur program, you write a business plan, and from that plan you launch the company right out of school.
Yeah.
Is there any better advertisement for the entrepreneur program? I mean, it's not sort of theory only, it's people that actually launch from school.
Yeah, and there were so many people that came and spoke to us and shared their stories. It made it very attainable. And I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. Both my parents are entrepreneurs and kind of the fringe troublemakers. And so it was an easy leap for me because I grew up with it. But certainly coming here and meeting so many people and hearing their stories from everyone from who was just starting out of their garage, who I've now become friends with, and his name is, he does the Heroes. Doug Pick. And so he was one of the speakers, and he's built his company up, and to people who were billionaires. So it was amazing experience for me. I loved it. When I came here, I came to visit USC. I transferred and I applied to all the schools. I just kind of left Florida. I didn't get accepted before I came here. And when I went and visited all the schools, when I came here, I was like, I know this is where I need to be. And then the first day in class in this room, I was like, this is why I came to LA.
Really?
So it was like I very much knew. Like sometimes you don't know and it's just a little tug, and sometimes you just know in your gut. So follow your gut because it makes a big difference.
That's great. In this very room, magic can happen.
Yeah.
Nice plug.
Which is why I come back and speak and share, because I got so much out of it.
Good, good. So you mentioned how you sort of rolled in. You started with 1 or 2 partners, New Deal?
Yeah, I started, I have 2 partners, Matthew Gratzner and Ian Hunter, and they're the creatives in the business, and then I'm the business end. And we started the company, and the name was Hunter Gratzner Industries, and as we grew the company and we bought out a production company next door that had gone out of business, we changed the name to New Deal Studios so that it was easy to say, spell, and remember. And but being the business side is very creative as well. I find, like Warren Bennis has a great quote about that. Like you can be the singer or you can provide the space for the singer to do their work. And I feel that very much that way. Like as artists, they have basically like a blank canvas and a tube of paint, and I have a bank account. And I can spend it any way I want and create any culture and any environment and really create a company. So it's important to look at the details, but also to look at your company from like a 30,000 foot view, like a chess game, and how you plan and put the pieces together.
And you do that so well. I want to get into the core values and the mission of your company as you formed it. But before we do that, we saw what you do, but can you explain in words what services and what type of products that you sell?
Our company is primarily a service company, and we provide visual effects services to the film industry primarily. And we were very strategic with that. The work on low budget B films is the same headache as it is on an A-list movie. So you might as well work on an A-list film and get paid more money, although that has changed significantly in the last 2 years. And there's also, like, the film industry is a state of mind as well as just a task. So one of the things we were talking about is providing world-class work. Like we're real particular, like Matthew and Ian are my business partners for a reason. They're amazingly talented people. And not only are they great artists, but they're very balanced from a perspective of business and understanding budgets and schedules and how to bid and how to lead people. And so sometimes I have like ADD, so you have to excuse me, I jump all over the place. But so they're great to work with. But on the service side, when we started our company and I wrote the business plan, I even have a copy of it from way back when. We always had a component of creating our own content. So along the way, we've made like little short movies, and in this day and age, you have much more access to being able to create high quality media. And so we're taking advantage of that and doing as much work as we can, like creating new media projects, creating our own commercials. We direct and produce commercials, and as well as like our short films, and we're developing full-length feature films. Lower budget projects, like in the $3 million range, and we even have a $70 million project that came to us by chance.
And give us an example of a recent commercial that you've worked on that we have seen.
We did a commercial with Michael Phelps for Subway about a year ago, and we did LA Care Health Plan, which is kind of a local company. It's a really successful, how do they call it, like a public option health plan.
Okay.
And we also have done a lot of new media work. So we worked on, for EA Games, there's a new game called Bulletstorm that came out in February, and we produced a commercial for that actually ended up being a viral video on the web.
I saw that. Was the Subway the commercial where he like swims through concrete, swims underground?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So when you formed the company, were you initially doing, that was before digital effects were really sort of the
Yeah, it was
mainstream.
just the emergence of
So
digital.
tell us about when you started and the model making and the level of talent and tradesmen and stuff that you would employ. What did you typically deliver, and give us an example of something?
We typically did a lot of design work and just miniature fabrication. So on, on Broken Arrow, a lot of the airplanes, and we worked on Godzilla and built the Chrysler Building and the Flatiron Building, and a lot of explosions. And then as the industry evolved, we consistently revisit our business plan. And at that time, you could kind of make a change, and it'd be six months to a year, and not much would change. And you just kind of deal with the day to day. But now there's so much information that it's almost every day that we're revisiting. Like, how's it going? What's going on? What are you hearing? And you make finite adjustments in addition to larger adjustments. So along the way, we've always, we bought out a production company that was next door to us in 2001. And in 2004, we jumped into digital effects because we could. The price of computers and software came down. And just have also used that strategically to help balance out it's a feast or famine industry. So if we offer more services, then we're able to kind of level out the instability. Because the only consistency in film is inconsistency. And you just have to deal with that. It's the way to save money.
So when you're bidding on project work, you have spikes
Exactly.
and valleys, and so the idea is to fill that in with more consistent spikes, I guess, to
Yeah.
level it out.
Except that the industry's been changing so dramatically. It keeps changing with me as I change the company. But it's never boring. It certainly is a lot of fun. And that's part of why we've gotten into doing so much new media work. I'm the computer tech geek in the business, so we got a lot into digital effects, and now we're doing work in transmedia, which is not just creating a feature film and a story for a feature film channel, but also taking that narrative and that story over multiple channels. And a great example is Star Wars, where there were feature films, and now there's an animated film, and there's so much on the web and books and games and toys. So that you'll see a lot more. So much of it is ad hoc right now. It's like, oh, we're making a film. Oh, we need a game, and you're almost at the end of the film. But a company that's doing it really well, doing transmedia work very well, is Pixar, and then Disney's been adopting a lot of that. And so where they're rolling out aspects of Toy Story 3 at the theme park before the film releases. So they're doing a really good job. And then it takes some pressure off the film. Like Tron did well at the box office, but it wasn't a huge blockbuster. But they've done really well with the game and the theme park and clothing and merchandising. So they're making another film. And they have those assets that they've created the film with. So it's just kind of, it's like an interesting change in the industry. So we're changing along with it because for us, we're storytellers. Like our final product is the image on the screen. Whatever tool that we use to get there is irrelevant. We're tool agnostic, which is why when people tell us oh, you're just the model maker guys, and it's like, yes, and we do this. That's not just what we are. You come to us because we design amazing, iconic imagery, and we're not just fabricating something for you.
So who are your customers exactly? Who calls you from the filmmaker, the director's side, whatever? Who hires you, and who do you report to? How do you define your customers?
Yeah, it depends. Often we're bidding a big film, and we have relationships with the director and the producer of the actual film. And so we had conversations with them, and then as they hired on their department heads, like a visual effects supervisor and producer are the head of the department of visual effects, and then we'll work with them. So we kind of we'll get a job any way we can. So either with the director, the producer, relationships at the studios and the executives, through our friends in art departments, whichever way we can get into a project, we'll do that.
And it's a competitive industry, and there's been some consolidation. Some people have left. There's some major well-known names that we all know about. What distinguishes New Deal? What do you think is sort of your competitive advantage in being successful?
Well, I think it's just our ability to deliver world-class work and design amazing imagery. And we have done that consistently for 15 years. And it's not just the creativity, but it's also managing our resources really well. So producers that are very busy can just pass off, like we often hear this, which makes me feel good. I know we can just give you that sequence and we'll show up and it's great and beyond what we even expected. And I don't have to worry about it because it really can be overwhelming. Like a lot of producers and supervisors that I work with, when they come to an end of a film, they're working, 18-hour days, 7 days a week for months to finish a project. So the more the pain that we kind of help handle for them is that they can just pass off sequences and we'll take care of them.
And you mentioned quality, and it's sort of an overused word, but is it also a fanatical attention to detail? I was,
Absolutely.
have our common friend Sam who interned there, and he'd come and tell me that he spent 8 hours on 4 frames or something like that, and you'd all sit in a room in your studio, and with laser pointers just like hit artifacts or something that wasn't perfect, and then he would go back to his computer and spend the rest of the day on a couple frames.
Yes, absolutely. It's you really, really have to love it and pay attention to the details. And when we, like on certain jobs, like on Inception, I called every single crew member myself and said, like, look, this is for Christopher Nolan. He fights for it and he really cares. It's not an easy job at all being a director and having to deal with not only your crew, but the studio and the financiers and then marketing. And I told them, bring your best game to this project and we are going to deliver amazing work. And so from the design standpoint, fabrication to photography and digital, we are, frame by frame we're delivering frames like JPEGs. And there's 24 frames per second and 60 frames per second. It's amazing, 60 seconds per minute. And so you can do the math. It's a lot of work. And we'll sit there and project. Our work is projected in a theater. So if you're working on a monitor, we'll take and do quality checks in our screening room and with laser pointers, like pick out artifacts and things that you can't see on a small monitor. But it's like you really have to love what you do. We love what we do and we have fun with it. And if you don't, it shows.
Yeah, because at any point, if you do great work, no one notices, meaning
Yes.
they're kept in the experience. They're never brought out like that's fake. If you do anything that takes them out of that
Correct.
place, that's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah, and part of our competitive edge is we feel like visual effects should be in service to a story. And that's one of the things we loved about Inception, is that so many of those effects were really in service to the story. It's such a psychological thriller. And the same with Shutter Island. We did a lot of work on the Martin Scorsese film Shutter Island, where you were in, like that, you get on that roller coaster and go for the ride, and you don't want like a bad matte painting or composite, because your eye can tell. The eye won't see if something is there, but when it's not there, it sees it and takes you out of the story and takes you out emotionally. And then we failed and we haven't done our job. And there are some visual effects people who love the show me shots, like they want you to know it's a visual effect, but that's not my aesthetic or our studio's aesthetic. And studio executives, like casting an actor, cast companies. So there are certain companies that are known as like the talking animal companies, or you get known for what you're good at, and then they cast you in those roles for those sequences.
Are you the talking animal company?
No. That's okay. They do amazing work, and who doesn't love a talking animal when it's done well?
Or an E-Trade baby or something, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You work with creatives, you came from the business side, you were creative throughout your life. Can you talk about that experience? It is much different than dealing with investment bankers, it's much different than dealing with lawyers. What have you learned that you can share with us about working with creatives that is different?
Yeah, I find actually that creative people, scientists, technologists, and entrepreneurs are all kind of very similar, and you have to manage them the same way. So keep that in mind. And often also the most creative person is often the quietest person in the room. So if you have a loudmouth person, just kind of watch them. It's true, because so many amazingly talented people, that's actually one of the reasons I do what I do. It's wonderful to see what these people create. And from like a carpenter to a mechanical effects person to a digital artist, we are very lucky we hire people that kind of do the work of 4. So we recruit and filter people really well. And so it's pretty high standards to come work at our studio, but there's a lot of, you have to like have a good sense of humor, be nice, and like be able to do your job. Because when you're working that many hours, you want to work with people you like. And so keeping it fun and challenging, and people often are very sensitive. So for like sometimes in business, insensitive business people will just crush a creative person, and then it takes them time to recover and to get to a point to really give to a project. So I find like for me, one of the things that I want to do differently is I find the film industry can often be like paid slave labor. People are treated so poorly that just some common courtesy and respect and providing a fun, safe work environment goes such a long way. Like people will leave other jobs to come and work with us, and we're very fortunate. And also, we try to provide a space where people aren't in like survival mode, and we'll say no to clients, and we try to manage our time and work people 8, maybe 12 hours, and it's the very rare occasion that we work longer because people get tired, and I kind of feel like don't fight Mother Nature, manage it. And I want people fresh and there and able to open up and give to a project and not just like barely there. You know, it's like there's 40% discretionary effort you get out of employees. How do you get that? You know, and common courtesy and respect goes a long way. Like, please, thank you. And, you know, it's been great working with you. And then doing little fun things like barbecues or ice cream, you know, afternoon breaks or things like that, mixing it up. Like for The Dark Knight, when The Dark Knight came out, we rented an entire theater and invited the whole crew. So
cool.
Just fun little things, keep it interesting.
Well, let's talk about your role there. You touched on it, your philosophy and how you treat people and how you manage. What is your sort of primary role and responsibility at New Deal? And I know it's wide, but sort of give us a description of what you're doing day to day and what you feel responsibility for.
Well, I'm the CEO, so, and I love business, so I deal with all of the business. And we have certain key crew that work with us, operations, a head of production, our kind of a digital supervisor, head of IT. And so we have a core team that I work with, but primarily Matthew and Ian are busy being creative. And it's like giving them the space to really shine and do what they do, which we try to do with everyone, not just Matthew and Ian. And so that's really my job. So because I have ADD, it works really well because I jump from subject to subject, but then it also can work against me to where it's hard to concentrate and get things done. So I just kind of have to balance that out. And it's it's never boring. And that's very important to me.
Well, inherent in the work you do, it's pretty exciting stuff. You use a flexible workforce from time to time, like when you gear up projects you have to hire, and then when you're not busy, you sort of, so at your height, how many people, you know, when you're really, really busy, how many people do you got sort of swirling around there?
Yeah, we have a core crew staff of 15, and then we kind of expand and contract, and 125-ish is kind of our record, so to speak. And so then it becomes a challenge to manage cash flow and manage, you know, that crew, but you know, when we're 125, we're on a big shoot. So you'll have department heads like your lighting department and your grip department and camera, and so they'll manage the people within their department. And we have a phenomenal head of production. His name's David Sanger, and he grew up in the industry. So not only does he manage all of our productions, but he also helps us to learn politically how to kind of traverse this very interesting industry. So he's very funny. So he's great to work with.
Well, you're talking about people, and you can have the best equipment, the best software, all of that. Talk about the importance of people in your business and how you continue to nurture them and make it a good place to work.
Yeah, our people are our business. You know, like in a digital effects company, it's just a room with a bunch of computers, whether you're in this country or another country, and it really comes down to the artist. And that's what I was saying, like we are very particular about who we hire and then treating them well so that when they come in, they're doing the work of, you know, 3 or 4 people. And along the way, you know, I've been talking and kind of training our new operations person, and, you know, I kind of feel like our company is a vehicle to, you know, provide a living and provide growth for ourselves as company owners, but also for each individual employee. Because everybody has a dream in Hollywood. They want to be directors and writers. So we kind of help you get along in that career as at your own pace. And while you're with us, we want your full attention, essentially. So we do a lot of continuing education, and we kind of have our informal New Deal University. So, but we spend a lot of time, like a lot of the physical effects and artists that build things for us. We've been doing a lot of training in the digital department because it's the same skills. If you can build it in real life, you can build it in the computer, and often more efficiently. And otherwise, you have a bunch of software jockeys, or you potentially can have just software jockeys who then don't understand cinematics and how to make a beautiful shot. And so we kind of cross-train everyone, and we want them to work together. So all departments, there's no like us versus them. No one person is more important because the image on the screen is our final product. So it's like constantly reminding everyone of our culture and what's important. And it works out really well. And I think one of the biggest things is just helping people move on. Like, you tell me what interests you, and we have often new people out of school, and they work as production assistants, and I always joke around like that, we'll put you through boot camp. So, and often give you like tasks that aren't a lot of fun or things, and then kind of mix it up with things that are fun and see how you work with it. Can you bring some enthusiasm? Do you think ahead? Do you just kind of work through it even if it's not a lot of fun? And then that gives us a sense of who you are and can we trust you, because we're working on some pretty amazing projects. And so just know that you often get tested early on. It's just like when you call and talk to us on the phone, or your resume, or those are all tells as to who you are and how you'll be to work with. And even in any business relationship, like one of the things we're going to chat about is like partnerships. We've been together for 15 years. And the issues that you have with your family or friends or relationships, you're going to bring into a business relationship. So it's just behavior patterns, and just be aware of that.
And understanding people, and it is pretty rare that someone acknowledges that we're going to be training you, and when the time comes for me to move on, we'll help you. Because nowadays people think, I'm going to train you, it's cost a lot of money, we want you here, and they expect sort of to stick around, and I'm sure you do, and your company's known for low turnover and loyalty and all those things, but there comes a time where people could either outgrow you or you could outgrow them, and you sort of want to provide that base.
Exactly. Like we've made many connections for people that work with us to move on in their careers, and then we've also had a lot of employees come back and hire us.
Yeah.
So that shows that we've done a good job, to me, and it's important. Like our company has a brand, but each employee, I kind of encourage them. You have your own personal brand, especially in this day and age. Like building up who you are, like kind of be careful what you put on Facebook, or create a personal Facebook account, and then have a more public Facebook account, or Twitter, and build up your own personal brand. And I've even heard people, which I love, like on Twitter, because I'm a geek and I'm always on Twitter, but where they wouldn't take a job at a company because it would diminish their own personal brand. So it's changing the business landscape, and I think for the better. I'm thrilled with it personally. So,
well, talk about giving people a responsibility early on, and I can sort of understand that. I had a young friend who was looking for an internship and met Shannon, and Shannon said, "Can you be out here?" So he's in film school back east. He's a sophomore in film school. She says, "Can you be out here Monday?" Gets on a plane, comes out Monday. And he doesn't know whether he's bringing the executives coffee, sweeping floors. He has no idea, because he just when an opportunity comes, and he was ready to jump on it, he jumped on it. In 3 days, he came out. And he was staying at my house. He comes home the first day. And again, he doesn't know what he's going to be doing. He just said yes to Shannon. And so he thought, I'm probably pushing a broom and getting lunch and all that stuff. And he was more than happy to do that. So he comes home after the first day, and I said, how was your first day? Honey, no. How was your first day? And he just looks at me, he goes, I can't even tell you what I did. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, within a half hour of going there, I was working on a Scorsese film. And he was like shaking. Like, this is, seriously, I mean, as a film student, you can't imagine how exciting that must be as your first thing when you think, I'm going to be bringing coffee. And he goes, they let me edit from the first day. and he had this unbelievable experience. I mean, really grew as a person in the industry, and you lit his fire. That kid is coming back. He graduates in a month, and the day after, he's pointing his car out here and moving out here. I mean, you really, really did that. So by giving people that opportunity, you never know how great people can become.
Exactly. It's like giving them opportunities to shine, and when they don't like quite fit in a position, or when they've grown and they have another interest, we're constantly kind of doing check-ins with people and trying to give them other opportunities to grow and to learn. And when you feel protected and invested in as an employee, like, you give back, and that's really important to me. But also, Sam is an amazing kid. Like, he really worked hard, followed through, was amazing, and
he's a good kid.
Yeah.
He's a good kid.
So, but there's so, I mean, it's just, you have to bother. Like, I tell so many students, like, I don't know how good you are till you tell me. So you have to come and tell me how good you are, and present yourself, and be excited. And especially working in the film industry, it's a challenge. So you have to really love it. Like David says, if suicide is your only other option, then work in the film industry, because you really have to want it, because it can be so challenging. Like, there are times when it's thrilling and amazing, and there are times when it can be really hard, and you're working like 16, 18 hours a day, every day. And, making, I mean, particularly for me, because I own the company, so I'm there first and I often leave last. But it's amazing. Like, there are moments when I walk outside and I'm like, this is why I do this. Like, on Inception, that miniature was 50 feet tall, took up most of our back lot, and we blew it up twice within 7 days. So we had one take, blew it up, cleaned it up, put up the other building, and we had big cranes out. I mean, it was unbelievable, our back lot. And those are moments where it's, just thrilling and amazing. And then the day-to-day is you have the camaraderie of your crew. So independent of a producer or studio, and how challenging that can be, because sometimes our clients want to put us out of business. That's a whole other story. But is just having that camaraderie and that consistency of crew. And we've had people for 10, 15 years. And then sometimes I have to kick them out, like, okay, it's time to move on with your career. And like production assistants, it's like you get 6 months and that's it. You're on to the next thing. You have to move on. And it's either in our company or I'll help you find another job somewhere else.
We talked about the rough side of the entertainment business, and your role as CEO. A lot of times you're the person that is the contact point with the client when there might be a disagreement, or they're pushing too hard, when they're asking too much, or you have to say no. What is the most powerful word in Hollywood?
No.
And why is that?
I set him up for that.
Why is that?
Because it's just the nature of the industry. Like, it's on so many levels. But like I was saying, some of our clients want to put us out of business. I had a friend who was being hired on a film as a visual effects supervisor, and the studio told him if he didn't put a vendor out of business, that he wasn't doing his job. He's like, yeah, that's not how it works. And he didn't take the job. And so from there, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I'll tell people straight up, like, I'm not a business. You're going to, kill on this job. Remember, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. I'm here to make your film better. And then if you kind of like say no and like slap them a little, they behave and respect you. And then there's also the just controlling your growth. Like, it can be so busy. I had a friend who closed his company last year because he just kind of took on work and didn't manage his growth. And like, for me, I want to have fun at what I do. And we've grown our company to the size that, I feel comfortable running it and want to put the time and effort into. And the next step is kind of taking on investment and professional managers and helping it grow. But I'm not going to do that all on my own. I want like somebody who's more experienced to come in and do that. I don't want to be the only one doing it.
So you mentioned partners. You have 2 partners. Some people like partners, some people don't. Bob Maestro, the founder of Body Glove, who had a partner, by the way, said if partners were such a good idea, God would have had one. So what's your idea?
It depends.
What's your idea on partners, and why does it work for you guys?
In this classroom, I heard choose your business partner more carefully than you choose your wife. And there weren't that many females in the entrepreneur class that I was in. But, it's a relationship, and it's not perfect. and you're going to have your ups and downs, but I look at it as like a band, like we all have to work together, and Matthew, Ian, and I all have very similar goals and values, so that makes a big difference. And then we're constantly checking in with each other. How are you doing? Because after businesses go through midlife, and business owners are like, well, I'm kind of bored with this. I want to do something else. And so we'll work on our own independent projects, and leave. We kind of allow ourselves. Like for me, I do a lot of continuing education. I come here and I take time to speak, and I have my own projects. And as long as it doesn't hurt the company and you set it up to be successful, it gives you a little bit of freedom. Like Ian just came off working a lot of shows, and I'm like, okay, you need to leave and go on vacation and get out of here. And I was kind of scheming on how to get him on vacation and away. And then we got a phone call like, can you go to South Africa tomorrow on a show on Green Lantern? And I said, the answer to that question is yes. And I said, how often do you get to go to South Africa, to rush on a film project and help make something happen? And so he went, and he had a great time. And then I sent him on vacation. But you just really have to pay attention. And allow things to change, like in negotiation, in any deal or business, like things change. And being aware of when they change and bringing it up is really important. Like people grow together and they grow apart. It's just how it works. That's why I say, like, manage Mother Nature, don't fight it. Like, it's okay to leave. Like employees, it's okay to leave. When your time is up, don't vilify something to make it okay to leave. Just recognize that something has changed, and either ask for a renegotiation, or just take some time off, or go work on a personal project. Sometimes you just need a little time, especially in our industry, because you get so burnt out that it just like a few days makes a huge difference.
And why? And you talked about balance and lifestyle, and so do you? Saying no is a tough thing to do when work's coming. A lot of people, they ride it when the wave's running, they ride it. You do actively manage your workload so to not burn people out and to not burn yourself out?
Absolutely. Well, for many reasons. What's good for the bank account is good for people. But, when you're working really long hours, like after 10 to 12 hours, there's tremendous loss of efficiency of people. So when a client says, can I have that shot tonight to review? It's like, okay, well, why do you need that shot? Like, what's important? And, we kind of negotiate around that. And then I also say, I don't burn out my artists. When we kind of go into an overdrive mode and hit a deadline, we'll bring on more people. Or if there's a change in the scope of the project, we're very good at bidding. That's a whole other area to get into. And communicating with clients to kind of manage their expectations and manage the workflow so that we aren't burning people out, because then it affects your bottom line. Like we just kind of went to 8 to 10 hour work days, and so many of the digital effects people have been burnt out and worked 18 hours a day, that all those really good people that don't want to do those hours come and work with us. And we're pretty fortunate. So we even use that strategically to get really good talent.
Good. And can you talk about some of the tougher times or the biggest setbacks that the company has faced, and sort of what it felt like to go through them, and how you overcame them, if you did?
You have natural ups and downs like anything. I'm in a group called the Entrepreneur Organization. So as you start your businesses, be aware that there's a worldwide organization for people who own businesses. And I was talking to my friend, and she's like, that's normal. There's normal cycles to your business. Get over it. And so it's always nice to have those check-ins, and that's what the purpose is. But last year actually was a particularly tough year, and we go through natural cycles. Like anybody's career, you go to 3 or 4 years, and then you have a downturn, and then you kind of come back. And you handle it different ways. You kind of handle it together. It's important to talk it through and recognize oh, this really sucks. It's really hard to go through. You cry, you go through, people get angry. There's different emotional, outlets that every person is an individual, and they deal with it differently. But it's just part of the process. And it's this too will pass. You just have to kind of work through it. Be aware, where do you make changes? Last year, so many people our industry changed dramatically. Nobody could get money to make films, or very few people. And there was no work for months. And that happens every once in a while, so we save up money. But, it gets to be a challenge, and like, okay, those are actually really good times for us because we do all our projects, reevaluate. We kind of did a major spring cleaning and got rid of things. So when we're in the moment of build or a shoot and a project, we don't have time to address that, and we'll take advantage of a slow time. But, just tough times are tough times. It's the way it is. And you deal with it. Like, what else are you going to do? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, no matter what you do, we'll go see a movie or take time off as well and come back and then deal with the issues. But it's a challenge. Like, a friend of mine closed his company and he said, I cried enough tears to fill a pool. It's just like, that's what's nice about the entrepreneur organization and like sharing with other entrepreneurs, because then it's like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one, And then there's like the really successful, exciting times when you sell your company or you do really well and you have a new challenge, and then you can share that with them as well. It's part of the process.
It is important to have a peer group, a forum group, whatever it is, other people, because it gets lonely out there sometimes, because if you are, in addition to your partners, if you're where the buck stops, you're not really entitled to have a bad day. You are on a personal level, but you can't pass off your anger, frustration, sadness to the people that are working with you, because if you do, guess what happens to their productivity and their day?
Yeah.
If she walks around in a pissy mood and looking at the ground, a lot of other people are going to feel that. So it's important to have people that you can talk to, club partners, husbands, wives, all these other people that have businesses, to be able to close the door and just say, this sucked today.
Yep.
And
that happens. That's part of life.
Yeah. Well, let's talk. Those are sort of the lower points. Let's talk about some of the high points. What are some of the seminal moments in New Deal Studios when you thought we're on to something, or that the firm, got some accolades or did something that you were just really, really proud of?
Well, one of the first things in our company was we got all the work on Alien Resurrection, which was a long time ago, but we were just this small fledgling company, and then this opportunity came along and we did all of the miniature effects work on that show. And that's where the producer was telling us, like, well, we're thinking of splitting up the work and spreading it around, and we said, no, you either give us all the work or none of it. And they gave us all the work. And that was a pretty exciting time. And then when we bought out the production company next door, and we landed a huge job on Don't Say a Word with Michael Douglas and Sean Bean. And we had both of them at our studio and shooting them, and we built full-size sets. And it was like with every kind of step of the evolution of the company, it was pretty exciting. And then working on The Aviator was very exciting, because we read the script and we knew, we need to work on this movie because this is an Oscar-winning film. And so we did everything we could to get on the project and stay on the project and contribute. And we were included with the Academy Awards when they choose 4 names. So 4 names for the ticket. And Matthew, who is my partner, was included on that. So it was exciting to see all the paid advertising and the whole Academy campaign, and see his name on there. It was very exciting. And then we won Visual Effects Society Awards for that, and he was nominated for a British Academy Award, and they flew us to London for that. And so just those moments are pretty exciting. And then getting into digital effects and being awarded a whole huge sequence, and for the first time, is pretty exhilarating. And right now we're working on raising money to make our own films, so that is kind of the next pretty exciting moment. But as we've gone along, we knowing that our next step is producing our own films, we've kind of taken the opportunity to produce different shorts, or we did a whole vote, don't vote video for the 2008 campaign.
You guys remember seeing that one?
With Leonardo DiCaprio and all his friends. So they, through our relationships at Warner Brothers, they called us and said, hey, there's this video, can you help produce this with Leonardo DiCaprio's company, Appian Way? And it's just another opportunity to build a relationship, and also to be, our own little small part of history. And then we were also, with Warner Brothers, hired to work on Whiteout, the movie with Kate Beckinsale. And we produced 20 minutes of that film. They were doing tons of reshoots. We rebuilt 7 sets and reshot and had her on our stage. Like, we had our stage and 2 stages at Paramount going at the same time. And that was after, like, it was so busy in 2008, 2007, 2008. I was like, oh, if I survive March, I'm going to be okay. Then it was like, okay, if I survive April, it's going to be okay. And then we got the call for this job, and it was like, we started a company that was a union signatory, set up all the vendors, and did $2 million worth of photography work in 6 weeks.
No kidding.
So I survived May and June. And it was pretty exciting and a great experience, and like another just kind of stone in the foundation of building towards, hey, give us money to make our own films. And so that's where we're at right now. Because you can, right? Everyone's got a 7D or 5D Canon and a Zune, like a sound recorder, and you can create HD professional content. And so many people in the film industry are nervous about that. And I tell them, like, don't be nervous. You know, it's like everyone's got pots and pans in a kitchen, but not everyone's Mario Batali, you know? And there's like a certain percentage of people who won't bother, and a huge percentage of people who won't bother, and then a percentage of people that won't do it well. And so it's like, it's still about creating quality content, because so many people feel like, oh, it doesn't matter, like kids your age don't care about the quality of the image. And I'm like, no, like if some like really good-looking guy or girl walks by, you're going to stop and look. And so, and I think Christopher Nolan's work is a really good example of that. Beautiful imagery is compelling, and you will watch it. Like for The Dark Knight and Inception, you know, they fought to shoot on IMAX, which is a huge format. And what they couldn't shoot IMAX, they were shooting like Super 35 and VistaVision, which are other formats. And they did a chemical color correction on the film. Nobody does chemical color correction anymore. It's all digital. And what happens when you scan film is you don't give it a chance to be filmed, to be this beautiful image. And so they fight to shoot on film. Like even Cowboys and Aliens, they shot on film. And like Spielberg and Jon Favreau and Matty Labadie, who's the DP, like were fighting to shoot on film, which I find very interesting. So even though you're like the top guy in the industry, you still have to fight for things. Mm-hmm. Like on Aviator, like Martin Scorsese was fighting for things all the time because they believe in it, and they'll give up part of their rate to make sure that they produce an amazing product. And so when people care and fight for it, we make sure that we deliver as well.
Well, we're going to open up to questions. Do we have a microphone today? Okay. We'll open up to questions, so get your questions ready. Let's talk about you getting to work in an industry that you like, love.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have a lot of people come through. Talk about being able to do something that you love, the pluses and minuses of that, of sort of following your passions.
Yeah. But in this day and age, or in anything, everyone's like, do what you love. What they don't tell you is that it's not easy and it's not always fun. So just be aware of that. But it's, like I said, it's horrible, wonderful. It can be so exhilarating and amazing and worth it, and there's just the natural ups and downs. Like, because there's moments where I'm like, this is like sometimes not fun. Obviously, you can tell. Having it be fun is really important to me. But that it's just part of life, and I covered it a lot in the discussion. But do what you love, because you'll put more time and effort, and you'll just be that more successful. But also, it can come with challenges. Like I have a friend who owns a business, and I was just like, oh, I didn't, you know, last year was really tough. And he's like, what are you complaining about? I paid to work at my company last year. So there's, you know, just moments.
Yeah, and that means you're probably the last to get a paycheck in tough times. A lot of people defer, you know, if you own the company, you defer your salary in tough times. She mentioned that she's the first to arrive, the last to leave.
Sometimes.
You know, you lie awake at night wondering, you know, what could go wrong. Something did go wrong.
Your house is on the line. You're responsible for payroll, for safety. So it's a whole different perspective if you've never done it and had to be responsible.
And compared to working for someone else, it's much easier working for someone else, much easier. And you can really check your problems at the door when you leave and not sort of let them linger. And it felt the same way. I was in a dangerous business and lying awake at night wondering who got hurt, You know, when
Yeah.
you hear, you know, we were in environmental drilling, and so when, you know, you hear that thing in the morning that no one pays attention to, there's an overturned big rig on the 405,
Yeah.
and the first thought is it one of ours? And that type of stuff keeps you up at night. And there are easier ways to make a living, but the flip side of that is, could you imagine working for someone else, really?
Oh, never. My dad was in a management program at GE, and he hated it and left and told me my whole life I could never work for anyone else. And he kept his business very small. Like, he managed it with just a few people, and Doug Pick with Heroes, like, has no employees. And one of actually the first lesson in this room was a gentleman who owned Wave Rave, which was, he was like a world-class heliboarder, and he's like, dare to dream and design your company around the lifestyle that you want to lead. So if you don't want to work a lot of hours, don't work in the film industry. You know, like, go and create a business that fits the lifestyle that you want to lead, and that's okay. And I never understood why he kept it small until our company started to grow, and I was like, oh, now I see. Like, and then you just make those choices. Like, our company is a bit bigger, and you know, we've go up to 125 people, and it's a lot of work, and it can be very dangerous. And but you know, past a certain point, like, we control the growth. And part of, you know, other kind of areas of growth, you can like choose to kind of grow in other directions. Like, our company is very healthy as a service company, and now we're moving into creating products and doing more new media work. And so you can kind of grow in another area and not like have to take on, you know, extra responsibility, or use your company as like an ATM to fund other projects and kind of seed fund your ideas. Because there's, you know, with venture capitalists, they want to see like the hockey stick growth. And a lot of these, like, we're starting to see the beginning of a bubble of a lot of mom and pop, small, like really well run, very artistic businesses, because it is so much easier to start a business and run it and manage it. And there's like ready information, and it's easy to do the accounting or outsource your payroll. And so we're starting to see a big bubble of a lot of those mom and pop businesses that just churn cash in our economy. And you know, small dairies, small farms, or like little boutiques, or people who specialize in, you know, any random number of, you know, things. Like, if you like model trains, and you know, you can be on the internet and compete globally and expand your, you know, your opportunities for income. And that's actually a really exciting thing to watch. So you can kind of create anything you want, and that's part of the fun.
And you sort of, you touched on it, and I think it's important, is that you sort of identify your core values and what's important to you. And that's sort of the thrust of this course, is figuring out your philosophy, what your drivers are, what your filters are, so that when the opportunity comes, you don't just say yes because it's a lot of money. You sort of say, is this my lifestyle? Is this something that I'm going to excel at? Am I passionate about? Do I add unique value? Does it move me? Is it meaningful? You know, those are all questions that, you know, we ask ourselves. So the question I'd ask you is, what drives you?
Oh, well, I love like business and creativity, and like providing a great place for amazing artists to come into. Like, really, even as a producer, like, you know, I came to LA to really work in film and kind of be the business side of entertainment, and that's producing films. And, you know, it's like, I love the people and the process and the product, and kind of protecting that, and a bit changing the paradigm so that it's like a better kind of place to work, which is happening now. It's not just me, and that's what drives me. The people. Like, there's a woman that works for us who's a sculptor who's like watching Michelangelo work. She's unbelievable. Or people who are a gentleman who worked in mechanical effects since he was 15 years old in this industry, never formally trained, but is so brilliant at mechanical effects. Like, he knows it. It's like, you know, it's like Mozart. Like, you are either taught it or you know it. And when you know it and you learn, you know, all the theories and all the rules, then you can break them. And it's just, to me, that's what I love, is to see people come in and create, and the camaraderie and that whole process is what really drives me.
Great answer.